Lestat here, hope you guys are doing well. Today we're going to be profiling my Darklord deck. Before we get started, I do want to say that I am profiling a pure variant because it's been 5 or 6 months since I last played the deck. I think the best way to learn this archetype is to play pure and then expand from there, which we will do in the coming weeks. That being said, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a like. Leave a comment down below. I always enjoy interacting with you, and please consider subscribing for more awesome content. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. First, we're playing triple copies of Ishel. She's going to be your main draw source. You mainly want to use her in tangent with Superbia, because whenever Superbia is sent to graveyard, you're going to want to use your contact to revive it. And whenever Superbia is summoned, you can special summon another fairy monster from your graveyard. Keep in mind, Darklord Superbia has a when effect, meaning it has to be the last thing to resolve in a chain. Otherwise, it misses timing. We're playing triple copies of Indulged Darklord. This is going to be your primary starter. You can take 2 Darklords with different levels from your deck, place one on your opponent's field, and add the other to your hand. You ideally want to add your Ishel to hand, that way you can set up your draw combos, and then you want to give your opponent the Capricious. Capricious can potentially lock your opponent from summoning other monsters. For example, I was playing against a plant deck the other day where most of the effects revolved around monsters that can summon themselves, whether the opponent controlled all plants or no monsters. So in certain situations similar to that, this card could really lock your opponent. Or if you're siding cards like Gozen or Rivalry, that can knock out your opponent as well. We're playing triple copies of Darklord Nastin. This is going to be your extender. The downside is you're going to lose hand advantage whenever you summon this. The upside is the traps that you may discard to summon this will be very useful because you get to apply effects from graveyard with most of the Darklord effects. We're playing 1 copy of Amdusk, which can recycle cards from a graveyard back to her hand. We're playing 1 copy of Tezcatlipoca. This is a hand trap that can protect your Darklord monsters. 1 copy of Darklord Ukobok. It can send whatever card we need to graveyard. So if we need another search, we can pitch a banishment, apply its effect. Or if we need to interrupt our opponent, we could send one of our traps to grave. We'll play 1 copy of Morningstar. This copy has the potential to swarm the field for a potential OTK. It could also replenish your life points. We're mainly going to be using Morningstar for the first Darklord because this will trigger the first Darklord's effect, allowing you to destroy all cards your opponent controls. But more on that in a little bit. For hand traps, we're playing triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joy of Spring. You do need to play some form of hand trap to interrupt your opponent. Keep in mind, you want to side at least 1 Droll Knockbird and 1 Dimensional Shifter, and then your crossouts, because Droll and Shifter are the 2 cards that can severely wreck this deck, so I highly recommend playing the crossouts for those. Triple copies of Banishment, which is your search. Triple copies of Contact, which is your Monster Reborn. For consistency, we're playing triple copies of Allure. Triple copies of Upstart Goblin. This deck has always sort of struggled with consistency. So cutting the deck from 40 to 37 makes it better. So this is why we play the Upstarts. And life points don't really matter when you're swarming with high attack point monsters anyways. 1 Foolish to send your Superbia to grave. 1 copy of Called by the Grave to counter hand traps. 1 copy of Thrust. Ideally, you want to be playing 3 of this. However, I only pulled 1 and I refuse to pay the big bucks for this. But this card is amazing. If you have the ability to play 3 of this, do so. But this card is amazing. It can search for things like your Banishment, your Contact, and let's be real, your opponent's probably going to try stopping the Ishel draws anyway, so being able to thrust in response to that to get what you need, really good. One copy of Talents, which is searchable with Thrust. Really good. You only need one copy of this. One copy of Gravekeeper's Inscription. The reason why I'm playing this is because it's great against Beastals. So this has the ability to make it so neither player can banish cards from the graveyard until the end of your opponent's turn. So this is why I play that. So you don't need to worry about your opponent banishing stuff from your graveyard like your Superbia. You just play this and then not have to worry about the Beastals. One copy of Enchantment, which is a Mind Control. One copy of Rebellion. Keep in mind these are non-targeting. Again, Mind Control, Rebellion's a pop. One copy of Uprising. This just helps you go into the first Darklord. So that's it for the main deck. Getting into the extra deck, we are playing one copy of the first Darklord. As I mentioned earlier, if you use the Morningstar's material, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. Not only that, you could pay 1,000 during the main phase to special summon a fairy monster from your hand. So if you're siding in Darklord Christia, you could summon Christia for free. Or you can summon a fairy monster from your graveyard like your Superbia to extend your board. The first Darklord can also prevent your fairy monsters from being targeted. One copy of Garua. It's a secondary fusion that you can go into. You're not going to be going into this often, but it's there if you really need to push during the grind game. One copy of Fairy Cheer Girl. This is more prevalent in the Shadows Light build. I might profile that version here in a couple of weeks. But if you can use enchantment to take back your Capricious and overlay it with Indulge, you can go into this. But you can detach a material to draw a card. One copy of Red Eye's Flare Metal. This is just in here for time. One copy of Big Eye. Gustav Max to inflict bird damage to your opponent, and then going into Libe for OTK. One copy of Star Crisis. This can shut down effects and then remove a card on your opponent's board. One copy of Kaden, one of your primary starter cards. You can pitch a card from your hand to add what you need from deck to hand, or you can pitch a Darklord to graveyard. You can also tribute summon your high-level Darklords by banishing any monsters from your graveyard, and then during the end phase, you gain 500 life points for every fairy monster on the field. So, really good. One Protector of the Aged's Moon. This is a Diamond Direwolf of Fairies. You can tribute a fairy to pop any card your opponent controls. One Appaloosa for the Negate. One IP Masquerena for the Interruption. One Unicorn for the Spin. I will say that if you own SP Little Knight, you could probably take out one of these two cards, or even the Fairy Cheer Girl, and play that. I refuse to pay the big bucks for that card, so that's why I'm not playing it. One copy of Underworld Goddess, my favorite all-time Link monster. It can shut down activated effects by your opponent. You could stop a special summon from the graveyard, and not only that, it acts as a kaiju. It's just the perfect Link monster, in my opinion. And you can also use it in tangent with IP Masquerena, so you can use Masquerena's effect, link away an opponent's monster along with yours to go into this, and then interrupt your opponent by shutting down their activated effects, which is really nice. And then we're playing one copy of Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. If you use a level 7 or higher monster, which most of the Darklords fit that category, or meet that qualification, I should say. Once you use those as material, you gain protection, and it gains additional effects that allow you to OTK. This concludes today's deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. As I mentioned before, I am going to be profiling other versions, such as the Shadowlight version, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, leave a comment down below. I always enjoy interacting with you, and please consider subscribing for more awesome content.